Hi, I'm Sean Dunn, and welcome to this episode of Origin to Ambition, the Entrepreneur's Journey. In this episode, I speak with Cody Royle. Cody Royle coaches head coaches of elite sports. So he's the coach's coach, you could say. He's written several fascinating books on the subject. He's a speaker, self-employed entrepreneur, and I think you'll find this episode particularly interesting in that it deals a lot with the crossover between coaching, leadership, and business. So I do invite you to sit back and listen or watch and enjoy this episode of Origin to Ambition. Welcome to Origin to Ambition, the show where we explore the small business entrepreneur's journey in business. I'm your host, Sean Dunn. Let's get into it. Okay, Cody Royle, thank you very much for joining me on my episode of Origin to Ambition. I really appreciate your time.
Sure, not a problem. It's a pleasure to be asked on. Love what you're doing.
No, well, I appreciate it too. And I've this sort of came about. I think I may have mentioned somewhere online that I was kindly gifted one of your books, Second Set of Eyes by Cameron Schwab, actually, at one of his sessions. And it was fascinating reading. I'm sure we'll talk about it, your books at some point in this discussion. But I wanted to reach out and see if we could get you on because you cross being self-employed and really an entrepreneur, but also because of your coaching. And I think there's a lot of parallels, and I think we'll be in for some interesting insights. So can we go back to the start? So Cody, do you mind taking me back? Where did this all begin, your journey into the world of coaching? But, was it back at school that far back? Where did it all begin for you?
Pretty close. Yeah, I think actually, I did actually coach in school. I think I took maybe the year 10 boys or something like that when I was in doing my VCE back in the days. But no, played footy, Aussie rules at a pretty elite level through the pathway, and that's all I ever wanted to do. So there was no backup plan. No backup plan. Wasn't interested in anything in uni.
But you went to uni. You went to uni.
I did. Yeah. I was there or thereabouts. I was in the Vic Metro squad at 3 age groups. So I was a good footy player, but not getting drafted kind of put me through the ringer a little bit, and I struggled mentally to deal with that. Fell out of love with the sport, and I was playing at Caulfield Grammarians, and just ran into a coach there that kind of tapped me on the shoulder and said, I think you'd be good at this coaching thing. You're a bit of an overthinker. Doesn't serve you well on the field, but serves you well in the coach's box. And do you want to come and maybe do some work with me? And so, as I've learned, as I've spoken to probably hundreds or thousands of coaches around the world in different sports now, it's a very common thing, right? You're not really thinking about coaching, but you get tapped on the shoulder. So I had that experience, and then coached in Australia for a couple of years, worked with the Calder Cannons in the under 15s and under 18s. And my first age group was 3 top 10 draft picks came out of that group. We had like Joe Danaher and Rory Atkins and John O'Rourke. And so as soon as I saw that group and saw what coaching was, I was like, this is me. So, I was hooked, and then came overseas just to do a little gap year stint, work internationally and get it out of the system, and been here ever since.
Yeah, got it. So when you decided to, I'd like to, I'll probably have to circle back on this one because it feels a little bit like you fell into coaching a little bit. It wasn't sort of part of a master plan necessarily. And I'll come back to it because I find a lot of self-employed entrepreneurs fall into their business. So there's kind of a bit of a parallel there, I think. But when you went overseas, what was the role? What did you go into there? Coaching?
No, I was specifically trying to stay away from sport and footy. I was just hoping to work internationally. At that stage, 2009, the Australian government were really opening up a lot of visas for young people, and it was very much, kind of 2 years at a time. You could pretty much go anywhere in the world. And the idea was obviously you do the work and bring the intellectual property home with you to benefit the Australian economy. And so I wasn't set on Canada. I wasn't set on Toronto. I looked at Dubai and Mumbai and Amsterdam and Hong Kong and London and a bunch of different places. But yeah, came and worked here, and it gets even more kind of complex, Sean, my journey, because I'm working the whole time as alongside my footy, or my coaching. So, I'll kind of go to the end is like I've spent the last 15 years in the corporate space picking up different skills in different industries that have really helped me since I've gone into my own business. I was inadvertently acquiring the skills of an entrepreneur without knowing it, like while I was working in HR and sales and kind of trying all these different industries.
Yeah.
And so, and everything just kind of merged really nicely at a point in time for me. Unbeknownst to me, but I just kind of sat back and said, geez, I've got this bit, I've got this bit. I was in UX for 7 years. I was designing products and releasing IT products, and I knew how to sell, and I knew HR, and I knew how to write, and I knew coaching, and they all magically merged for me.
Yeah, magic. I like it.
But stumbled into all of it. There was no intent behind it.
Yeah, so that's interesting. So, where was the point that you felt inspired to say, "I'm going to run my own business," which is in the business of coaching, but it's your own business? And where was the tipping point or the spark, I suppose?
Yeah, my second book, I wrote. A first book was called Where Others Won't, and it was kind of about the overlap between sport and business. I wasn't particularly happy with, working in like the big banks here and kind of looking at how they're trying to build teams and all the lessons I try and take from sport, and they're kind of the wrong ones. So I tried to settle the record with that book. And then the second book was called The Tough Stuff, and it was a lot more personal to me, and it's about the emotional toll or the lived experience of being a head coach. And unbeknownst to me, really, at the time, hundreds of other coaches were kind of experiencing what I was experiencing and resonated with what I had written about. And I'm not joking when I say I would wake up to between 1 and 5 new messages every day saying, I need to talk to you about what you wrote about. And so, yeah, my kind of audience found me through that way. And then they started, it was that organic customer just coming to me saying, I need you to work with me on the things that you've written about. You've obviously thought deeply about this and developed and designed some things off the back of it. So can you help me? And so it was really a plea from my own audience to go into business. That was inspiration.
That's really interesting. I go back to the first book. What inspired you to just write a book? Like, it's see, common practice is people become self-employed and then they write a book, or they, become an expert in a field and then they write a book. And it feels like you wrote a book. I mean, what drove you to write the book? It feels more personal for you.
Yeah, I'm a writer by trade, so that helped. But, like I look at my life really in 2 periods. There was, up until 18, which is like Cody, the footy player. And then there's like this 18-year meandering gulf of trying to find something that very clearly wasn't going to be play AFL footy. But I couldn't find anything else. And so, I think at about 36, I'd seen enough things, and I'd been writing about coaching for about 7 years at that stage. And it was just this like feeling of, okay, I think at about this age, I understand something about the world or business or sport or team building that's different from the way that's being presented to me. And I think I can solve that problem. And so it was, again, not something I really set out to do. I didn't set didn't want that to be a business. I was just trying to untangle the world that I saw in front of me every day, because I was, remember, it was 9 to 5 working at a big bank Monday to Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday I'm the national team coach of Canada in Aussie rules football, trying to build my own high performance team. So I just lived in this world, and I thought I had some answers that could help other people, and so that was the intent behind the first one. And it just more so showed me that I could write a book, so that I kept doing that.
Yeah, I understand. So it's interesting, because I usually ask, and you've just given us the answer about how you ended up becoming self-employed, because basically people were asking you to be, I guess, in their way. They're, not asking you to be self-employed, but to help them, and therefore that evolves into a service that you're providing. And was there a point then when you said, right, where did you know that you had to tip across and say, this is what I do now? Like, I'm not working for a bank or whatever. This is 100% where this goes now.
Yeah, I had the perfect leg up, and I'll always remember this, and I'll always be fond of this. I spent the last maybe 2 or 3 years of my corporate career working for, ironically, given my name's Royal Bank of Canada, and I worked in user experience, like I said, so in IT, and we worked on the mobile app. And when I was hired, the director said to me, "Do you want to know why we hired you?" And I said, "Sure." No one usually offers up that information, but yeah, I'll listen. And he said, you're a good writer, but we can find them anywhere. It's like, what we love about you is you do this leadership stuff, and we want you to keep doing that. And we want you to, if you get to speak about that topic, we want you to speak about it. And we're a team of designers, and so everyone has their own little business off on the side, graphic designers and things like that. And so keep exploring what you're doing. And so I had a leg up in that my work allowed me to continue to build a little business on the side that I could basically get to a 0.5 kind of FTE or headcount whilst working full time. Actually, didn't have kids yet, and so I was able to build half a business while still consulting at the bank. And they were not only open to it but encouraging of it. And I mean, I've never heard that story from anyone else. It's usually the other way around. You're having to hide this little business that you've got and make it a different name, and you can't post it on LinkedIn. And I was building my audience. I was up on stage talking. All my coworkers were liking all this stuff that I was doing, and so it was really the perfect leg up in that sense.
That's so one of the things I'm sort of jumping around a little bit here, but another thing that I often ask is, who was a mentor when you started the business, or who maybe gave you advice when you started the business? But I don't want to preempt anything because I don't know, but is someone like that director you just mentioned, is that, I'm not saying they were a mentor, but like the fact that they've actually highlighted to you where they think you've got a skill set and believe in it, is that, I mean, that's incredibly powerful, and important, I would have said.
Yeah, completely changed my perspective. I'd worked at another bank that wasn't so kind and actively sought to kind of diffuse anything that I was doing there. And so, more so what it did for me, mate, was I had lost a bit of faith in leadership and management in big companies like that. Like I was writing about, speaking about it on stage and saying how good this can be, but then my actual lived experience was quite different from that. And I started to wonder whether I was just selling bullshit.
Yeah.
And until that occurrence, frankly, and that whole stint that I spent there was the same. No one ever raised anything. It wasn't just this one kind of rogue director that was telling, all the staff to go and kind of have a little business. This was a whole department that was supportive even of each other. So less so the mentorship, but the kind
culture.
of, and just the little push out onto the playground, right? Like, go, do it.
Yeah.
Everyone needs one of them from time to time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for entrepreneurs, often that's the challenge, is to find that person, or to find people, that are either a mentor or an advisor, or just a supportive peer group, that can, give you their insights and their experiences of what's worked and maybe not worked for them. Find that in a large institution, is really very different. Maybe sadly.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Is I was starting to think, like, am I off track here? Like these, I would love for this to actually be a thing, but I couldn't reconcile where that would be until I ran into it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's really. Look, it sounds like at some point you were thinking, am I fantasizing that this can happen? Is this a reality? And then you've had an affirmation really from your employer to say, yeah, this can happen. This is a thing that, you're going down the right path. Is this the type of area where your work can assist, larger businesses, but even small business, in terms of your coaching expertise and knowledge into leadership? Is that where you can really aim what you do?
I could, yeah. And there have been some kind of requests too. I mean, like, good coaching skills, anyone in the world can use them, right? Like, this is something that's just been reinforced to me, even recently on some of the trips that I've been on and spoken to groups that I didn't think I was really going to be able to resonate with, but the ability to help people towards their goals and, give them confidence and help them with their awareness and paying attention to the right things and keep on track. Like, it doesn't matter whether you're running a fitness business and you're talking about your trainers, or you're a UX designer like I was, or you're like, there's core skills in the coaching skill set that can really benefit anyone. And so I don't see it done well in corporate. I think it's called coaching, but it's still just management repackaged. It's not coaching. Just even some of the maybe more prevalent, executive coaches and things like that. When you kind of look into some of the techniques they're advising, that's just it's just reworded management. It's not coaching. And so, to answer your question in a long way, is yes. Like, great coaching is great coaching, and it's impactful when done well, whatever the domain you're in.
Yeah, I think and one of the things that prompted me to reach out to you, Cody, is and I've got it on my desk.
I know that guy.
Yeah, it's been it really resonated with me, and that's your book, Second Set of Eyes. And it's a bit dog-eared already, which is, I think, how a book should be treated if you're serious about reading it.
Good.
And I think that's why I reached out and wanted to speak to you today, was that this is not about me, but I'll just give you a bit of my experience, where I've felt over recent years my role as a business and personal financial advisor has kind of evolved more towards being a coaching role almost. I think when I first started 25 years ago, you were basically a technical expert, and people just paid you to be a technical expert, so to speak, your stuff around investing and finance and so on and so forth. And I find now a lot of my clients are entrepreneurs, clients, or high income earning executives. And I really find that really you become the coach, like you're trying to move them towards a goal set over a period of time. And in reality, it's cyclical. You sort of go through one phase of strategy and improvement for them, and then really that cycles up to the next phase. Like you're sort of doing the same process, but just taking it to a different level every time and trying to layer up, I suppose, with them. And that's why your book resonated, because I was just reading and saying, I just need to do more of this stuff, like, like without trying to, oversimplify it. Does that, I think that's where what you do. I think people in all facets of life should be sort of reading your books, to be perfectly honest. If you want to know anything about leadership, then you want to be a good coach. A good coach is a good leader, a great leader.
They can be, yeah. Often with good coaching themselves, yeah.
Yes, yeah. Well, I want to come to that at some point. I'm not trying to make you regurgitate all of your books here today, Cody. Sorry. So bear with me as we go. So let's go back to self-employed, because I'd like to circle back to leadership at some point. But with self-employed, what are some of the lessons that you've learned? Like, what's worked for you? And you say you had a good start, a bit of a leg up in starting, but what are the things that you found over your journey being self-employed that have worked? And what are the things that even yourself, you'd sort of look back at the start of it and say, I might have done that differently? Because I think those are the lessons people can learn if they're thinking about starting a business or being self-employed.
I think I was really lucky in this sense, in that I had just come from 7 years of designing and releasing products into mass market. Like, we were the biggest bank in the country and we had 5 million daily users. And this is all I was doing, and releasing products and adaptations. And so I was like in product mode. And so I was also able to look at myself as a product while I was in that mode. And so there's now, one of the things I did well was I separated Cody Royle the person from Cody Royle the brand or the company or the business, and designed the business as like we would a tech product. And so there was like a minimum viable product that we kind of launched into market, off the side of my desk, and testing different things and going and speaking to my potential customers and understanding who they were and what their challenges were. And so I did all of the typical things that you probably should do, and was really able to deeply understand and then choose a subset of that market. Like, I could have worked with coaches in general, but I used the Seth Godin-ism, like smallest viable audience. So I even went further down into just head coaches, just at the elite level. And so you're starting to get into really scary territory in terms of there's not that many of those. And if I'm being perfectly honest, like, even if you were to split it, it's probably skews more male as well. So now you're down into a really small subset, but then I knew, who I was really serving and the problems that they had. And so I think a lot of that kind of went well, but I was just fortuitous to have been doing that and was very much in the mindset of it. What I didn't do well, and this isn't just to say this because this is the area that you're in, but like all of the financial and backend stuff and the taxes and and just even conceptually understanding the routine with which those things needed to be done and the yearly, none of that. It was all very foreign to me, and I'm still not very good at it. I still don't like it, but I needed someone to probably grab me by the scruff of the neck and say, if you're going to be a small business operator, this has to be a part of your week every week. I was more inclined to just push it off to the side.
Yes.
And that doesn't benefit you.
No.
It really doesn't.
Yeah. And did you find, and this wouldn't be unusual, that it then starts to accumulate, like not doing it, and it starts to become a harder task than what it probably would have been in the first place, sort of thing? Yeah.
Yeah, it becomes a stressor that doesn't need to be one. And, my work is already emotionally taxing. Like I cap out at a certain number of clients just because of, like, again, the emotional toll on me. My work starts to degrade and my things that I'm working on with them. And then by virtue of that, my writing degrades. And so there's a real kind of knock-on effect of the work quality when I've got added stressors that don't need to be there. And the financial elements of running a business and just, categorizing all their expenses and all that sort of stuff. When you look at your QuickBooks and it's got 100 or 200 things to categorize, you're like, oh,
yeah.
And so the knock-on effect to the work is real, and I wouldn't underestimate that if I were doing it again.
Yeah, I understand. That's a good lesson, I think. So 3 things I sort of took from what you just said there, which the first being that you really did do your research, or maybe naturally because it's what you were used to doing, but you really researched your market, and understood it before you really launched hard into that. That's probably fair to say from what you just said. And
and I was one of them as well on top of it. I'd been head coach for 15 years. And so but then the subsequent research into other people feeling the same way. Yeah.
So I think the lesson, like if I'm just, if I'm Sally Brown and I want to start a business, that, doing your homework. I know this sounds probably simplistic and a little bit facetious even saying it, but doing your homework and actually having a plan, because I think a lot of people start a business without a plan. I come across a lot of new prospective clients that kind of just started doing what they do because they love it, not because they've really planned it, if that makes sense. So I'm hearing you'd say make sure you plan. And I'm also heard that really niching can be, you hear niching a lot, but you've really niched, like you've sort of super niched yourself. But that's, that market, you're the expert in that market. The second thing I heard, tell me, I shouldn't be talking, I should be letting you talk more, Cody, but I'm trying to summarize for our listeners the lessons that you've basically just dished out. So the second part was having a team or the right people as soon as you can to maybe do the things or help you do the things that you're not good at or not interested in even particularly. And there was a third one, and of course I've talked too much and it's gotten away from me. But I think that was leading into team. Having the people around you to a point would be worthwhile. Bearing in mind it's difficult to do if you're starting a business and finances might not be there and so on and so forth. I mean, it can be difficult. Resource capacity. That was the third one. Your capacity. You have an understanding of your resource constraint. Yeah.
No, with the team thing, like I'm not trying to build a business. It's always going to be me. I'm not trying to be Tony Robbins and have people selling the Cody Royle method and all that sort of stuff. But what you find is there are resources that are really accessible and available, even around bookkeeping and things. A couple of hours a month can be really helpful. And there's so many credible, great resources, virtual assistants and things like that, that even when you are, I hate this word, but solopreneur, just to get that chop out. And again, for me, those extra couple of hours is mental capacity to deploy against higher quality work. And I sell trust. So I need my work quality to be really high. Otherwise I don't get trust and I have no business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you clarified that, because that's sort of what I was talking about. I having a team, but having resources that you use is probably how I should have defined that. Whether you have a virtual assistant, a bookkeeper or software or whatever, but actually have it there so that you use it. Yeah. So that rather than when you haven't got any money and you're starting off, it's very easy to say, well, I can't afford to pay for that and I can't do this. But it actually can end up costing you more.
Correct. Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I wish I had have put those things in place earlier to free up that time. And I think I would have been further down the road. Yeah, to your point.
Yeah. Yep. Interesting. With what, besides having obviously a lived experience, but what drives you? Like, what drives you to do what you do every day right now?
After 18 years of searching, I've found something that I'm just obsessed by. Actually, two things. I content and coaching, the two things that I love, writing and coaching. And so I've managed to find a way to put a business together that both of those things come together. So I get to do the things that I actually want to do, which is amazing. And so I've kind of fallen into that, do something you love, you never work a day in your life category a little bit. But more so than that is that the best thing about being a coach in general, and it's not just with the people I work with now, it's also when I was coaching players, is the payoffs are so huge. Helping someone achieve a goal, master a skill, learn a skill, win a game, win a championship. There's a reason that is so elicits such primal descriptions about how that feels for people, and it's the reason that sport in particular, we forget this, we call them fans, but that's fanatics, right? It's a short term for fanatics, which means someone is so fanatical about your team and the sport that they kind of just go above and beyond and have this emotional response that you don't hear that word for a lot of other things in the world. Music might be the other one where people are really fanatical about it, but to the level of sport. And so anyway, the helping people do things and seeing the response and seeing the emotion that it creates in them, and seeing a player run past you during a game and be like, I did the thing. I did the thing that we've been working on. That's motivation enough. And I get that now with coaches. I see them do things that they didn't think they could do. And they have the same response. They jump on WhatsApp or whatever. I'm like, I did the thing that we talked about, and it was great. And you just see their eyes light up and their faces light up. And so to get to do that every day, I don't need anything else.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. It just, I'm probably being repetitive, but just the parallel to if people in leadership roles could take that view or to have that mindset, I think a lot of businesses and workplaces would just be better, but that's, I won't start pontificating about that too far, but I love the passion.
It's your podcast, mate. It's your podcast. You've got a soapbox if you want to.
Yeah, I'll maybe series 2. I'll just call it Sean's Soapbox, and I'll just get on and rant about certain issues.
Spin-off.
Yeah, spin-off series.
YouTube series. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. How do you? I ask all my guests this. How do you balance? It probably easy if you're very passionate about what you do, but how do you balance your personal life, because you have got a family, with the rigors of being self-employed? How do you balance those things?
I'm a little bit the opposite to most people in that I started my own business to get balance. So part of what attracted me to doing this, and even the elements that I've already described, like wanting to stay solo, to not trying to build a company and take on other people's lives and kids and health problems and all the kind of things that you adopt, plus all the pressures and having departments and hiring and all that sort of stuff. Is part of what I want is when my son's school calls and says he's sick, that I can go, okay, I'll be there in 20 minutes and I'm available to do that. And, my wife's, we have great maternity leave here in Canada. And so, she's on maternity leave for a year or 18 months, and we can go for lunch in the middle of the day. And So I wanted this for the balance rather than the other way around where most people are like trying to build something and find balance in the middle of it. I saw it the other way in that I felt shackled in by the kind of 9 to 5 plus the commute, plus the maybe coaching a team that I didn't have balance there. And so now I have the flexibility that I can do the things that I need for my family. Whilst, still, I mean, we're talking, it's almost 10 o'clock at night while we're talking now. So, there are some trade-offs, but, I feel and have felt since I went out on my own that I've had a pretty good balance.
That's, I work with all of my clients towards, so I say these three things all the time. I want them to be doing what they want, when they want, with the people they want to do it with. And that's the goal. Like, that's the goal. That's where we're trying to get people to. So do you feel that you're there or close, if not already there?
Close.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm close to reaching my kind of vision, which is to rehumanize coaching. I think I'm a ways away from that, which is a bigger task that I wasn't going to tick off in, 3 or 4 years into it. But I'm certainly doing the work that I want. I'm certainly doing it with the people that I want. I'm fortunate and I do get to choose.
Yes.
For the most part, they've approached me, and so the kind of we're off on a good foot. I'm not convincing people, so it's not arduous like it can be with some people where coaching is forced on them, right? I think I tick all three, but there's still more.
Well, it's interesting because I was going to say, where do you see, your business journey over the next 5 to 10 years? And I think you've just touched on rehumanizing. So is that how long till that can be realized? I think it's a big task. You're biting off.
I've deliberately chosen that one because I think it's the right thing to do and needs to happen, but also two, that it can't really be achieved. And so those types of visions that are just so grand that they seem impossible, it's like the Nelson Mandela quote, it seems impossible until someone does it. It's unless you set something that seems kind of a bit batshit crazy, there isn't enough in the vision to keep the drive going to it to actually move mountains. And I actually think, with regard to my vision, I think we're taking a little bit of a step backwards right now. I think if you just watch at the rate that coaches are being fired and just discarded and disregarded.
I thought about you. I was listening to the radio over the last couple of days in the car, dropping the kids off at school or whatever. And I knew we had this conversation coming up, and that stood out to me. That exact issue. Sorry to hijack you, but I was thinking about you when you mentioned that just then, and that taps into exactly what you're talking about. Sorry, please continue. I sort of cut you off there.
Yeah, but but I think we were headed in the right direction globally. It's different in different areas, obviously, with different labor relations and things like that tied into the sports. But it's just an area that people forget so quickly. Like I always remember when Reece Shaw stepped down as the head coach of North Melbourne. He got reported, I think, during the prelim final. It was a Friday night game, maybe, so it got reported pretty late in the day, and they cut to it at the halftime of the game. And I just it's etched into my head, and this is why I'm chasing the rehumanization of coaching so like vehemently, is they couldn't wait to talk about who was next.
Yeah. Yeah.
They couldn't wait. No one mentioned like hope is okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
No one mentioned the human being at all. Who's next? Who's North Melbourne's next coach going to be? And it's just like scorched into my eyeballs that took place. Like that's unacceptable.
Yeah.
In a people business, particularly a prominent one like we have at home. And yeah, you know, I think it made progress from there. And I think now you're starting to see, particularly in North America, it's like unhinged at the moment. And so there's been a little bit of a step backwards, a lot to do with just the amount of money that's being spent. But we've got to remember that these leaders are people, and they are fathers and mothers, and they have kids in school, and those kids are getting bullied, and those, you know, and there's very real people behind all of this. And so that's kind of my broader mission, but I may never get it, but I think it's a worthwhile endeavor nonetheless.
I love it. For those listening who want to take a lesson from that, aside, and there's a lot of lessons there, but a high level is having a big scary goal part of being an entrepreneur. Like that's something I think people should have that, and I think you've kind of given yourself that big massive goal or task. Is that something you would say to an entrepreneur or someone aspiring to be entrepreneurial? You know, bite off that goal.
Definitely, yeah. The bigger the better, and it doesn't need to turn into this conquer the world, you know, do the next Amazon or the next TikTok or something like that. You know, it can be a cause or it can be a goal, but it should really be. It should seem insurmountable as far as I'm concerned, because you know, you in your questions that you sent me, one of them was like, what are the traits? And this kind of dovetails nicely into the traits of good, particularly entrepreneurs. But like determination is probably the biggest one that I can think of.
Yes.
And stamina.
Yeah.
And like having a big goal that can keep you on track, keep you determined, keep you working towards something, always kind of pushing towards, you know, there's maybe more, there's more out of this product, or there's more in me as a human being, or there's more in my team, and staying determined and having some stamina around that. Because the reality is, like, success in what we're doing is most of it is staying in the game.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so if you don't have a big vision or a big goal attached to that, I think it's easy to drop out of the game, and you never know how close you really were to cracking what you were working on. Yeah,
I love it. You did. You beat me to the punch there, Cody. That was exactly going to be my next question. So you beat me there. I do ask this question. It does feed off the back of that to a degree. You know, is entrepreneurship for everybody?
No,
because you've got to have those things that you just said.
Yeah, you know, you've got to have a lot of grit and determination and ideas, and be willing to change your mind and absorb risk. And it's just like saying, is leadership for everyone? I think the cold reality of it is no. I think a lot of people have the capability to lead in their own domain, but it's just generally not what they find themselves doing. But yeah, no, I think there needs to be something. To be an entrepreneur, I think there needs to be a screw loose.
I think you might be right.
Yeah. Well, I say this to the coaches that I work with. I'm really fortunate. I get to work with the people that are chasing like the top of the top.
Yeah.
But to even suggest that that's that's possible, you've got to have a screw loose.
Yeah. And look, I should be clear, because I do ask that question all the time about entrepreneurship, and I should be clear. I'm okay if it's not okay for someone. I'm not suggesting that everyone should be an entrepreneur. It's just not suited to everybody.
Yeah, exactly. And look, I wouldn't have said it was suited to me. And so you can also maybe fall into it or like I did, like acquire a bunch of skills along the way that actually start to ladder up to it, where you start to think that it might be possible or it might be worthwhile. But yeah, it's hard for me to imagine that everyone wants that, just because it does come with a lot of trade-offs, right? Like the lack of stability and lack of paycheck and the stamina and might be family even. Just, you know what, like I worked in recruitment for a while, and one of the big reasons that people wanted full-time jobs instead of contracting was just health benefits, because they had a family now, so lives change. But what I would say is, you might not be an entrepreneur necessarily, but I think we can all be creators.
Yeah.
The means to create art or write or make music or create something in the world that is of value, that doesn't need to be an entrepreneurial pursuit. I'm big on that too. I think a lot of people maybe don't explore that when they should.
I like it. Cody, what's the one thing? Might be hard to pull it down to one thing, but I'm going to finish on this one with you, if that's all right. I could keep talking probably, but it's getting late for you, and and no doubt they'll chop bits and pieces as we go along here. But I'll finish on this one. If you look back on the time that you've been self-employed, your entrepreneurial journey, can you distill down to one and maybe two things that you are most proud of having been able to create in that journey?
Yeah, easy. That's one, and it came up today, so that's why it's top of mind. Is I get intermittent messages from people that I've never met, that I don't know, saying, I read something that you wrote, or I listened to you on a podcast and it helped me.
Yeah. And
to me, that's the ultimate. Like I said, around the coaching things, like I don't really need much more than that. And so to kind of get that, just random email pop into my inbox from someone, hey, you don't know me, and you know what, I read your book 3 years ago, and here's how it's actually helped me kind of achieve what I wanted to achieve. So to be able to kind of add value to people's lives where you don't know them, you don't know they're a consumer of your work, you don't know I guess you'd call them a customer, they've bought a book or something like that, but they're not kind of on my radar and I'm not working with them directly. That's the most gratifying to me by far. And even if I don't end up being self-employed for the rest of my life, I'll probably still write books. And so I hope I can still kind of have that element where people send me a note and say, hey, you don't know me, but this bit really spoke to me, or I read it the first time and the second time through it spoke to me in a different way and it helped me in a different way. And so to be able to impact people like that just through written word, I think is magic.
Yeah, positive impact on people you don't even know. That's just amazing. So that's, well, Cody, you should be proud of what you've done and what you're doing. I think it's brilliant personally. I want to thank you very much for being gracious enough to accept my invitation to come on and spend some time talking, especially originally a Melbourne boy yourself, and I'm located in Melbourne. So I really appreciate your time. So thank you very much for joining me today.
No, not a problem. Again, I appreciate the invite and I'm glad we got to do this.
Yeah, thank you, Cody. And maybe season 2 of the Soapbox, I'll see if you want to come back for a rant. Yeah. Thank you very much, Cody.
Thanks, Sean.
And that's all for this episode of Origin to Ambition. Thanks for tuning in. To make sure you don't miss our next conversation, be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen in. For more information, you can visit us at dominiumcapital.com.au, and we'll see you next time.